Have you ever wondered why, in a world created by love, there is still so much pain, cruelty, and destruction? If everything in the universe follows spiritual laws, if we are all connected by some deeper truth, then why do evil and suffering seem so real, so constant, so close? Is evil truly something that exists on its own? Or is it just something we believe in because we don't fully understand what we're seeing? Could it be that what we call evil is actually a reflection of our own fears, our own confusion, our own disconnected minds? To answer these questions, we must go far beyond ordinary thinking. We must enter the deepest spaces of ancient wisdom, the places where sages and mystics from around the world have tried to understand the mystery of pain, suffering, and human darkness. From Hinduism and Buddhism to Hermeticism, Kabbalah, and mystical Christianity, many traditions have looked at the same question through different eyes. And what they discovered may change the way we understand everything. In the Eastern traditions, especially Hinduism and Buddhism, evil is not a separate enemy force. It is not a battle between a dark god and a good one. Instead, evil is seen as something that happens when we are lost, when the mind is confused, when we forget who we really are. Imagine walking through a thick fog and seeing a shadow ahead of you. You panic. You think it's a monster. But as you get closer, you realize it's only a tree. That's how the mind works when it is filled with fear. It creates monsters out of shadows. In Hinduism, this illusion is called Maya. It makes us believe that the material world, with all its ups and downs, is the full reality. It traps us in a dream where we think our physical body and temporary thoughts are all we are. But the sages teach that the true self is something much deeper, beyond what can be seen or touched. And suffering comes when we attach ourselves to things that do not last. What we call evil is just the shadow of this misunderstanding, a shadow cast by our forgetfulness. One of the greatest sages of Hinduism, Adi Shankaracharya, explained this through a simple story. He said that if you see a rope in a dark room, you might think it's a snake. You'll panic, scream, or run away. But when someone turns on the light, you see that it was only a rope all along. The fear felt real, but it was based on something untrue. That's what evil is like in these traditions. It feels real. It affects us, but it dissolves when the light of understanding comes in. In Buddhism, the Buddha taught that what we often call evil is actually suffering that comes from our own desires, fears, and attachments. We want to hold on to pleasure. We want to run from pain. We don't want things to change, but everything changes. And that gap between what we want and what really is, that's where suffering begins. Evil is not something attacking us from the outside. It grows inside us when we forget how to be present, when we cling too tightly, when we resist what is. There is no devil in Buddhism. There is no cosmic villain trying to destroy humanity. There is only ignorance, the kind of ignorance that makes us forget we are connected to everything. When we forget that truth, we hurt each other, we fear each other, and we destroy what we don't understand. The Buddha said, "Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional." That means hard times will come. Loss will come. But how we carry it, how we respond, decides whether we grow or collapse. Evil, then, is not an absolute. It's a reaction. It's a sign that the mind is not seeing clearly. When someone is spiritually asleep, everything feels like a threat. But when they wake up, they see the same world with new eyes. They see that every struggle holds a lesson. Every shadow holds a hidden light. From this perspective, evil becomes a matter of perception. As long as we are trapped in the illusion of separation, the belief that we are just individual bodies and minds, we will see the world in pieces. Good versus bad, light versus dark, us versus them. But when we rise above that illusion and begin to see with the eyes of consciousness, we see that everything is connected. Everything, even pain, has a role to play in the unfolding of truth. Evil becomes less of an enemy and more of a mirror. It reflects back to us the places where healing is needed, the places where light has not yet reached. But this brings up a hard truth. If evil is only an illusion, why does it hurt so much? Why do we feel it so deeply in our bodies, in our emotions, in our relationships, in our history? The answer lies in our human nature. We are living in a world of opposites. Our minds are trained to divide things into categories: day and night, hot and cold, joy and sorrow. These contrasts are not mistakes. They are how we learn, how we grow, how we discover truth. What would life be without contrast? Could we even understand peace without first knowing pain? Could we recognize light if we had never seen darkness? In traditions like Hermeticism, which come from ancient Egypt and Greece, there is a principle called polarity. It teaches that everything has two sides, and those sides are connected. Love and hate are not completely different. They are part of the same emotional spectrum. Good and evil, too, are not enemies. They are different expressions of the same underlying force. Just as temperature flows from hot to cold, morality flows from awareness to ignorance. When someone loses awareness, loses compassion, loses connection to their own soul, they act in ways that we call evil. But the action is not coming from pure darkness. It's coming from a deep absence of light. Hermetic wisdom teaches that the universe is guided by spiritual laws. And one of those laws is that opposites must exist for life to function. If we never experienced resistance, how would we grow stronger? If everything was easy, how would we learn patience? If there was no pain, would we ever look inward for truth? In this way of thinking, evil is not a punishment. It is a challenge. It is a condition that allows the soul to grow and rise. Many ancient traditions say the physical world is like a school, a testing ground. The soul enters into limitation, into forgetting, into suffering, not to be punished, but to remember its true power. Struggle purifies the spirit. Pain pushes us to awaken. The darkness becomes the doorway to the light. We see this in myths and stories from all over the world. In Zoroastrianism, there is the battle between light and dark, not as eternal enemies, but as necessary opposites in the same divine plan. In Taoism, the yin and yang symbol shows that within every light, there is a little darkness, and within every darkness, there is a spark of light. In Kabbalah, even God had to contract his infinite light to make room for the world. That contraction, the space where God steps back, is where duality was born. And it is in that duality that human beings learn to choose, to grow, and to return. So maybe evil is not what we think it is. Maybe it is not a monster to kill, but a mystery to understand. Maybe it is not here to destroy us, but to wake us up. This doesn't mean we excuse cruelty or accept injustice. It means we look deeper. We ask, what is this trying to teach us? What part of us is being invited to grow? What light is being born through this shadow? True mastery is not about pretending darkness doesn't exist. It's about learning how to walk through it without losing the light inside. The greatest teachers in every tradition have said that we do not grow only through joy. We grow through heartbreak. We grow through being broken and rebuilt. We grow through fire. And in that fire, what is false burns away, and what is real remains. In Christianity, the idea of evil is closely tied to freedom. God, who is all love, gave us free will. That means we can choose love or we can turn away from it. Without that freedom, love wouldn't be love. If we had no choice but to do good, it wouldn't be meaningful. This idea is shown in the story of Adam and Eve. God placed them in paradise, but gave them a choice. They could eat from any tree except one. Why? Because freedom requires the chance to make mistakes. Without that choice, their obedience would be forced, not real. When they chose wrongly, they didn't just fall. They began a journey of remembering, a journey of returning. Christianity also speaks of Lucifer, the angel who fell out of pride. He was not made evil. He chose to separate himself from light. Evil, in this view, is not a thing. It is a choice, a turning away, a forgetting. St. Augustine wrote that evil is not a thing. It is the absence of a thing. It is the absence of good, just as darkness is the absence of light. And when we forget who we are, when we turn away from love, we fall into that emptiness. But the good news in Christianity is that it's never too late to return. The door is always open. That is the meaning of repentance and redemption. No matter how far you've gone, you can come home. That is the message of the prodigal son. He lost everything, but when he came back, the Father ran to meet him. That is how divine love works. It never gives up. It never locks the door. If evil is a choice, then so is healing. So is love. So is forgiveness. So is change. Many of the world's greatest wounds, wars, injustice, greed, destruction, are not caused by some supernatural evil. They are caused by choices. But if we can choose to harm, we can choose to heal. And every single day, we are given that power again. The choice is always ours. Kabbalah says that suffering is not here to destroy us. It is here to awaken us. When we go through deep pain, we are being invited to grow in ways we never would have otherwise. The greatest teachers are not always soft. They are sometimes fierce. And pain, for all its cruelty, can be the teacher that brings us back to truth. So does evil exist? In this world of form, yes, we feel it, we see it. But in the deepest truth, it is not a separate force. It is not stronger than love. It is not eternal. It is not outside the plan. It is part of the journey, part of the path, part of the dream that leads us back to the real. And when we awaken, we see what was always true. Evil was never the final story. It was just a shadow on the road to light. When we begin to change the way we see pain and darkness, something powerful happens. What once felt like a heavy burden starts to feel like a hidden gift. In the teachings of Kabbalah, this shift is deeply meaningful. At the beginning of everything, there was only light, pure, infinite light from the Creator. It filled all things, everywhere. But in order to create space for souls to exist freely and choose their paths, this light had to withdraw. That pulling back, called contraction, created room for individual existence. And with it came the first experience of separation from the divine. That separation is what we feel as suffering, confusion, and what we often call evil. But from this view, evil isn't a force outside us. It's the emptiness we feel when we're disconnected from our source. It's not here to destroy us. It's here to wake us up. When we forget the light, pain reminds us to look for it again. Every challenge is a message asking us to grow, to remember, and to return to what is real. Pain, then, is not a punishment. It's a teacher. It shows up to guide us, not to crush us. In Kabbalah, the healing of the soul is called tikkun, which means correction. Each soul comes into this life carrying something that needs to be transformed. Our imperfections, our struggles, they're not failures. They're invitations to evolve. They show up in the form of hardship, not because we did something wrong, but because our soul is ready to grow. One of the deepest ideas in Kabbalah is the breaking of the vessels. When the divine light first tried to enter spiritual containers, the light was too powerful, and the vessels shattered. Our world is made of these broken pieces, but each piece holds a spark of that original light. Every painful experience we face contains one of those sparks, and every act of love, awareness, or kindness helps restore it. This is our sacred work, to bring the scattered light back together. Suffering, then, is not meaningless. It's a part of our journey, and how we respond to it shapes who we become. If we try to run from it or deny it, we miss the lesson. But if we stop and ask, "What is this showing me?" something opens inside us. We stop being victims and start becoming conscious creators. We learn to turn pain into wisdom and darkness into light. Kabbalah also teaches that life moves in cycles. When we avoid the lessons behind our pain, they come back again, not as punishment, but as a second chance. Each difficulty is the universe saying, "There's more for you to learn here." When we face it with awareness, we rise. The soul ascends. What once broke us begins to build us. But awareness alone isn't enough. We must act. Kabbalah teaches us to bring light into dark situations through conscious action. This can be through kindness, compassion, prayer, forgiveness, or learning. Every time we choose love instead of fear, we are not only healing ourselves, we are also helping to heal the world. Many times, what we see as evil outside us is really a reflection of something unhealed inside us. The shadows we refuse to face become the judgments we cast on others. That's why the first step in evil is self-awareness. We must look within, not with guilt, but with honesty. What needs to be healed? What have I been afraid to face? When we shine light on these inner shadows, we begin to transform them. The next step is choosing good, deliberately, consistently. Every small choice matters. Kindness, patience, truth, and understanding are all forms of light. Evil doesn't thrive because it's powerful. It often thrives because too many stay silent. Goodness is not just a belief. It's a practice, a daily commitment to live with intention and love. But even deeper than this is the realization that good and evil are part of the same journey. From a higher level of consciousness, we stop labeling everything as good or bad and start seeing the purpose behind it all. Some of our greatest awakenings happen after our hardest trials. Some of our deepest strength is born from heartbreak. When we stop reacting out of fear and start observing with awareness, everything begins to shift. There's an ancient idea called Wu Wei, effortless action. It teaches us not to fight life, but to flow with it. Applied to suffering, it means not getting lost in pain, but also not ignoring it. We watch, we feel, we understand, and then we respond wisely. Darkness doesn't need more darkness. It needs light. Anger can become courage. Pain can become compassion. Even what we once called evil can become a doorway back to love. As our awareness expands, we begin to see things differently. What once felt like punishment begins to look like preparation. What we thought was unfair starts to reveal a deeper purpose. The universe is not random. It's full of hidden wisdom. Sometimes the greatest healing comes from the hardest experiences. We begin to trust that everything we've faced has shaped us. Every moment, every trial, every tear had a place in the story of our awakening. So when pain comes again, and it will, pause. Ask not, why is this happening to me? But what is this here to teach me? Let the experience open you. Let it soften you. Let it show you the light you forgot you carried. You were never alone. You are always guided. You are always growing. And what once felt like evil may one day become the very thing that led you home.